investment.
Well done.
Yes.
Is anybody there? Okay, no, I think that's good. I think it's. Okay, welcome everyone to our third presentation of Harvey Heritage. This is our series, and I'll just tell you that my name is Cheryl Bartlett, for any of you that don't know me, and especially online. Here, I'll stand in the light now. I guess not. And anyway, we first had a presentation by Jane Flyander on the Worth's Cove. That was very successful. Then John Little came and gave a talk on the history of Briggs and Little. And so this one is going to be done by Ray Mersereau, who attends our meetings religiously, which is very much appreciated. And he's going to be talking about lumbering in early New Brunswick lumbering. But before starting, we are accepting memberships now for this new year, this 2019-2020. It's only $5, and if you send in your money, you'll get minutes of meetings and invitations to come to meetings, and you can actually come and participate any way you like. You know, if you have a project that you would like to initiate at Harvey Heritage, come and join us, and we'll help. So we also have a raffle going on for our Easter basket. The raffle tickets are just over there. They're $5 for 3 tickets. And we also have a GoFundMe initiative going on for restoring monuments in the Harvey area. There's a lot of orphan monuments that don't have any caretakers. They were established, but now they're starting to crumble. And so we have a GoFundMe project to restore the Harvey Settlement Monument, and hopefully we'll do some others. We're also going to be restoring the Messer Monument, the Don Messer Monument. So I guess that's, and for that GoFundMe, we have already gathered $730, so that's pretty good. We need 4,000, but we're getting there. Little by little, we'll get there. So without anything more, Ray.
Thank you. My presentation tonight is not based on my experience living in the woods, by the way. I did spend 2 weeks one time peeling pulp with my grandfather. That's the reason I'm going there 2 weeks. I also seen the drive go through the Tracy area for about 3 years, I guess, and then they were phased out. So presentation is not my strong point. You know, I retired 29 years ago, and at that time I don't think PowerPoint was even heard tell of. We were using pad boards and flip charts. So you'll have to excuse me if I don't do this well, but anyway, we're going to do our best to make it work. This is our first lumberjack. And you can see he's working very hard there. On my computer at home, he's actually chewing the thing. That's the memory computer is not going to work that way. First, I thought we'd just look at some of the tools that they used to use in the olden days. And I brought in a few tools tonight before you leave if you want to go over on the table there. So not all of them, but there's 7 or 8 of them there. The spud that was used, of course, for peeling pulp. And that was no man's friend, I can tell you. The broad axe was used for hewing logs, railroad ties, and that type of thing. And of course the buck saw, and probably that buck saw is over on the table. And the Swede or bow saw, which was taken on later in life. The crooked knife, which was used for making axe handles and that type of thing. The crosscut saw was a 2-man saw used for usually for large cutting jobs. and both the single bitted axe and the double bitted axe, which was the basic tools of ignorance, I call them. The draw knife, which was used for peeling various types of lumber. The old grindstone, as you can see the handles there, I turned the handle many times from my grandfather sharpening stools. It was not an easy task, I can tell you, especially when he was standing on top, bearing down the grindstone. And the pike pole was used in the river drives, and I put a copy of that, at the end of that on the left-hand side. When I first went to work in the telephone company, we were using pike poles to put the poles up in the air as well. That's before the days of the bucket trucks and that type of thing. The wooden felling wedge and the steel felling wedge were used to help get the trees down in the proper place. It didn't always work, but sometimes it did. And the peavey, which is invented by a company by the name of Peavey. I think the man's name invented the name of Peavey. And they also made the wooden pulp hooks that you see there. One I brought in tonight was made by a locksmith, probably before the Peavey people made production. The early influences on lumber in New Brunswick. By the way, I put this stuff in there because the original intent of this presentation was to look at stream driving, but I thought it'd be quite boring to sit here for an hour and look at a bunch of guys riding down the river in logs. So I put in some information here on the early industry itself. Expulsion of the Acadians in 1755. This allowed Great Britain to concentrate on commerce in Nova Scotia, which included New Brunswick at that time. The planters came from New England, 1759 to 1768, and they created a demand for lumber to build houses, to seek employment, etc. The American War of Independence was 1773 to 83, and when that happened, it cut off the supply of lumber, especially chips mass, to Great Britain. They had been very active in providing Great Britain with a huge mass they required at this time for the Navy, and that of course stopped when they got the independence. The Loyalists came in 1783, and they created another demand for lumber to build houses and factories and so on. The Napoleon blockade of Britain was in 1806, and that prevented Britain from obtaining timber, especially ship's mast, from the Baltic states. And New Brunswick became its own province in 1784, and of course that allowed the province to pursue its own lumber agenda. The changing technology had two effects. One, it continued to require a change in lumber methods of harvesting, and two, it continued to require a change in the lumber products needed. And you'll see this through the presentation here, how we went from one technology to the next. Ship's mass. In the early 1800s, Britain had the largest navy in the world, and large mass and armor required. Large ship's mass required trees at least 30 inches on the small end, and 125 to 150 feet long. White pine was used, and there was all kinds of trees around with those dimensions at that time. After I retired in the telephone company, I did some renovations for people in Fredericton. And one of the houses I got into in there had been built, I think, back in the early 1800s. There was an old closet there with a bunch of boards on it. And when I took them out, all those boards were pine boards, 5 feet long and 38 inches wide, all one board. So, there were some big trees here at one time. Due to the previous influence, New Brunswick was able to supply some of this demand. Broad arrow mark was cut on each tree with an axe to identify the selected trees by the Navy. What they did, they brought people over from Britain, and they walked around through the forest, and they marked the ones that they wanted cut from the axe. When the people got their grants here, that was one of the stipulations, that they could not cut the trees that had the broad arrow mark. The early masts, of course, were cut along where they could get them easy, along the ocean shorelines, along the river shores. And the trees would be cut with a double-bitted axe and transported to tidewalk. They didn't even have saws at first. Imagine cutting a 4 or 5 foot tree with an axe, 10 miles back in the woods. Easy supply soon became depleted, forcing inland harvesting. Because at times there were 6 to 8 teams of oxen used to pitch mass from the point of fall to the roads. Once they got into the roads, they didn't need as much power. But oxen were driven differently than horses. The teamster would walk at the head of the animal with the whip. If the oxen was not pulling the load to the teamster, he would grab the animal by the horns and pull also. That's the term, taking the load by the horns. Ship's knees were also used in shipbuilding. The tamarack tree, or hackensack, as some people call it, was ideal for this purpose. Once harvested, it would be hewn for shipment with a broad axe. This made a very strong joint. The root of the tree would be dug out and cut off at a distance from the trunk. The remaining roots would be cut off at the ground level. The tree would then be cut off at some height above the ground, and the knee produced would then be hewed with a broad axe. My grandfather Mersereau told me that he helped his father, my great-grandfather, dig out knees and how hard it was to do. There was also a big shipbuilding industry in St. John, so a lot of the knees that our people produced went to St. John for shipbuilding down there. Due to the Industrial Revolution in Britain in the 1800s, demand for squared lumber increased beyond the country's ability to supply it. There were some big stands of timber in Great Britain, but they were on a lot of the wealthy people's estates, and they didn't want anybody to cut them. Now, during the war, the Second World War at least, they had to give that up, and a lot of Canadian soldiers weren't going to cut that timber. And I heard a lot of weird stories about the trees that cut over there. New Brunswick was fortunate that many very large trees of various species were still available to supply this demand. Large trees were felled in the forest and hewed square with broad axes and hauled to ports for shipment. Imagine that with oxen. Due to a lack of mills in New Brunswick after arrival in Britain, squared timber in many cases were resawed to various sizes at the mills. I'm repeating myself here. Hewing required the skill of the broad axe. Normally, hewing required 3-man crews. Man 1 would cause a line to be made on all 4 sides of the tree. Man 2 would cut a notch every 18 to 20 inches into the line along the entire length of all 4 sides. And man 3 would remove all the wood between the notches with a broad axe. And I was told that a good hewer could make almost a perfect smooth and a squared piece of timber. They get very adept at this. Another demand for our lumber courses. In 1837, the first telegraph message was transmitted. You see the change in technology what's happening there. The Brunswick Telephone Company was incorporated in 88, NV Power in 1920. And prior to the formation of NVTEL, many farmer lines were installed in the province. Now, the farmer lines didn't require a lot of poles because they used a lot of trees and sided barns and that type of thing for their lines, which wasn't very sturdy, but that's the way they got the job done. This new technology required harvesting of lumber for poles, cross arms, etc. Normally, cedar poles would be cut and sold to various companies by local farmers and woodlot owners in the province. And when I first went to work in 1953 for the telephone company, we were still buying poles locally when we went into a place to put the poles up. Poles would have to be peeled except 5 feet on the butt end, either by harvesting in the early spring or summer when you peel easily, or peeled with a drum at other times. Many times we beat them in the winter time, and those guys would have to peel the poles with the drum leaf. Prior to joint use, which was established in the 1960s, in other words, one pole for all utilities, poles were erected on both sides of the road, which required almost twice as many poles in each area. Required approximately 35 poles to the mile. So you can see if you had 10 miles line, there's 350 poles. Lifespan of these cedar poles is approximately 20 to 30 years, so they can be replaced pretty often. This is before the days of tree poles and creosote and that type of thing. Railroads came along. In 1850, the building of railroads ended caused a tremendous need for railroad ties. Initially, both softwood and hardwood was used. Eventually, it was found that hardwood provided a much longer lasting, more durable tie. Ties are cut into woods 8 feet long and hewn with a rod axe on 2 sides only. And here we are. 2,600 ties required to each mile of line. So when we broke the line from St. John to Harvey, it needed 145,000 ties. Imagine the work that needed. So that was booming times, right? In the late 1800s, mining became a common industry in the Maritime, like Cloud Spring Hill, Nova Scotia, Minnow, and Brunswick, and Cape Breton. To ensure the safety of the men working these mines, wooden pit props were used to ensure integrity of the ceiling shaft and shaft ceilings. Pit props were cut from cedar and cut at 8 feet long, and cedar was used due to its longevity underground. After cutting, they would be peeled with a draw knife on a wooden horse. This was very backbreaking work. And when the props reached the mine site, they would be cut to the required length of the pole seam being worked on. They sent me to Minnow one time to put a phone in one of the mines down there. The shaft, they were working at 150-foot level. And when I got down there, I was terrified, of course, because it was pitch black down there. And when I got down there, I could see in the coal mine shaft. And I'm telling you, it was a scary place to be. There they were with the pit props, some of them 3 feet long, 3'6" or whatever. They just cut them whatever length they needed. And there's no way you would have gotten me when that door work. I would have been a hobo before that. That was the quickest install I ever did. Life in the camps. None of the early camps were rated 5-star. Life was very hard, extremely hard in the early camps. The early camps, they said, this is something I read. I was never told this, but I read it in several books. Early camps were made totally of logs and had no windows. The floor was just Mother Earth, with the stumps and other wood debris cut out, and the roof was made from handmade shingles. That provided two things. That the handmade shingles, of course, kept the rain out. And the other thing, because these things were so fire prone, it gave them a chance to get out with their shingles would just laying on top of one another. So it was kind of a fire escape as well. For heating and cooking, a large sand pit surrounded with logs was placed in the center of the camp, and the hole was cut in the roof to let the smoke escape. And I imagine there were certain days that the smoke hung in there depending on the humidity, atmospheric pressure. The long lower upper bunk, 15 to 20 feet long, was built with fir boughs, lower and upper, with fir boughs covered with a long blanket for the mattress. And the long blanket, the total length of the bunk, was provided to cover everyone in the bunks. So if the guy in the middle had a leak in the night, he was going to create problems. And of course, you can imagine the smell. Another thing that was quite common in these lumber camps, especially back in these days, was lice. Because of the sanitary conditions in the camps, lice were very prevalent. And I heard my mother talk about that. I heard her grandfather had come home with lice, and they wouldn't let him in the house until they got a fine-tooth comb and put the lice out. Later camps were much more humane. Stoves were provided for one thing. And, usually they had two stoves, one in the cooking area, which would be a cook stove, of course, and the other one was the heating area, or the sleeping area. Bunks were provided with a mattress of straw instead of the fir boughs. I don't know if I mentioned it here later, but if it was a day that they couldn't get out to work because of weather, then they called that a day in the straw, and that's where it came from. Sleeping quarters were normally separate from the eating quarters, not in all camps, but in the larger ones. There was an area between the sleeping and eating quarters called the dingle, and it was used for the storage armory for the supplies for the cook and harness repairs and that type of stuff they wanted to keep out of the weather. In large operations, the dingle would be an attached building between the eating and the sleeping quarters. The cook usually had his own sleeping space. And most cooks had what's called a cookee to assist him, with the non-cooking tasks such as providing food and water as well as washing dishes. And sometimes there would be more than one cookie. In a large operation, they'd have maybe 150 men on site. I didn't think that much in New Brunswick, but in some of the other places, especially Newfoundland. The conditions I read about the lumbering in Newfoundland was terrible, a lot worse than we were here in New Brunswick. The Newfoundlanders were starving to death for one thing, and the big paper companies over there was not giving them any money to work with. So a lot of them didn't even make it over the woods. They got sick and died. No work's done normally on Sundays. Sometimes we used to file saws, sharpen axes, shoot debris, and so on. One important item at the camps was a large grindstone used to not only sharpen tools, but by the cook to ensure his cooking knives were kept sharp as well. And that old grindstone, I can tell you from past experience, that was not fun. Those things turned hard, and those old fellows wanted everything. One fellow told me he could shave with his axe, so he wanted everything sharp. Another Sunday activity would be the making of axe handles. This was done by cutting small ash trees and milling with a crooked knife. And I brought in a crooked knife tonight, so over there on the table. Entertainment. Most days there was no entertainment because the guys were so tired when they got back to camp at night. They worked from daylight to dark. Then they just wanted to eat and go to bed. But if there was entertainment, especially on Sundays, the playing cards, telling stories, reciting legends and poetry, sometimes 30 or 40 verses. Shirley comes from there, she and those old fellows over there at the music festival. They had this stuff all memorized, these 30 or 40 verses to these songs and lyrics and so on. Some of them play musical instruments and some of them sing, sometimes with no music. That to me would be a pretty boring evening. This shows a typical cook's quarters, and I think this would be in a bigger operation. I don't think this would be what you see in the Olympics. You can see the old cook stove there, and I think it looks like donuts or something there on that left-hand side. These guys did feed their crew well. What the big companies found was if they didn't feed their men well, their productivity would go down. So they always hired a real good cook, and the cook was probably the most important man, the cook in the camp. This is a thing I took off the internet. There's a lady in Harvey by the name of Marjorie Bell, and she's told us here some of her cooking stories, and I thought this was pretty typical of what the cook's job was. 39, she cooked for a crew of 7 in behind the second macadamia lake. She said the bread was made overnight with old-fashioned yeast cake and baked the next day. Laundry was scrubbed on a washboard with surprise soap. So that would make it so steamy. And then hung it to dry outside. So you have to bring it in, of course, it would be frozen. The same winter, she cooked at a much larger camp behind Macadamia Lake. 27 to 30 men. Now here you are, one woman cooking for that many people in very primitive conditions. She walked in, crossing the lake with her 2-year-old daughter. Hard to imagine, huh? She was supplied with a barrel of salted beef and another of salted pork. And that stuff had to be all soaked overnight before you eat it. A large pot of beans were cooked every day. And then from May till July, the crew had cut 1,000 cords of poultry. Imagine getting that out of the woods. She said she cooked at another camp called Mill Camp, 30 or 40 hungry men, and then her husband John helped with that camp. Here she cooked 2 batches of bread, white and chocolate donuts, 8 pies, dessert, and a huge pan of cakes every day. I think she must have been a pretty strong woman.
Yeah.
Not an important person in the larger operations, of course, was the blacksmith. And he was responsible for shooting the horses twice a year. They had to change the horses' shoes in the spring and in the fall. He was mending harness, repairing sleds, wagons. And my grandfather told me that the blacksmith they had in the back of his place, he was repaired the shoes for the guys. So he was a pretty versatile guy. After the harvest in the fall, many men headed to the woods for the timber cutting operations, and large trees would be cut using these tools, crosscut saw, bow saw, wedge, the axe, and so on. And in some cases, they used the pike poles to push the trees over. Here I had a horse twitching logs out. A smart horse was a real asset in this job. It could usually free itself if a log happened to get caught on the stump of the scoop. That should be rude. And a smart horse unattended would also know where to stop at the proper location in the yard. You didn't even have to tell them where to stop. We had the same situation on the farms when we used the horses to pull the hay up into the miles. Once you told the horse where to stop the first time, a smart horse, you didn't even have to go with him the next time. He'd go and stop where he's supposed to, so the hay, the big fork would hit the roof of the barn. Harling operation was done with a team of horses using a set of bobsleds. Look at the size of that load. And one team was hauling. So they had to have a road in real good shape to do that. Most larger operations had at least one or two persons responsible for road maintenance, called road monkeys. They would be required to cut trees that might fall on the road, shovel snow on bare spots, cut stumps that might be too high for the sleds, or ice a sled on the track using an icer. Another thing they used to have to do is, if there was a downhill, you can imagine if you had a steep grade going downhill, they would wrap chains around the runners of the sled to keep the thing from running over the top of the horses.
Oh, that way.
Be a couple of tons, I don't know. Ronnie had that, I did that in my work.
I looked at the show over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
How long would those logs be?
Pardon?
How long would those logs be?
12, 14, 16, hard to say really.
The race road monkeys, they were at night.
The ice sled would have to be filled with pails at a nearby water location, Brook Lake or Spring, and then driven very quickly over the section of the road with the ice. The wooden plug would be removed from a hole on each side in the rear of the wood box. And I remember one of these boxes in back of my grandfather's farm. It wasn't being used then, but I can't imagine going down to a stream or the lake with pails and filling that with water. And of course, the weather would be bitterly cold, so you'd have to empty it. And, I don't know. That must have been a terrible job. I would say. Early mills in the province were powered by water, which meant they were located in permanent locations. And I didn't know this. The first sawmill in the province located in St. Stephen on the St. Croix River in 1780. The dam was constructed at this location, which was the end of the annual run of gas growing and salmon in that river. And the state of Maine was also very active in the lumber industry in this area. Of course, that's the boundary between the province and Maine. And during this period, there were 140 mills along the river on both sides of the border. Imagine the work that would have made. First steam-powered mill was built in St. John in 1822, and in the mid-1800s, 50 steam mills were operating in St. John. Here's the way we started. One of the first methods of pushing long lumber. This is not an easy way to make a living. We call this drag saws, pit saw. Imagine the guy standing on the bottom. I guess if you worked there long enough, you'd probably get enough seniority to go to the top. Drag saws, rotary saws, and rubber band saws soon replaced this method of producing lumber. I can't imagine why. Early mills were extremely dangerous to work at, whereby many men were injured and in some cases lost their life. I read somewhere in this room actually that there was a man in Creekside that was killed in a mill. I think he had had his arm cut off, and he lived for 12 days and died after that period. I can't find out who it was, and no one seems to know. Note the close proximity of the man to the fast moving rope we saw in this picture. We probably wouldn't allow that today, I don't think. Here's some local lumbering pictures. The first one here is hauling log. These pictures, by the way, mostly came from Murray Swan, who was Janet Swan's first cousin. This is showing the Oromocto Lake Dam at the outlet as seen from the lake. So this is where I have my notes there, that's the lake side. And this one here is seen from, this is down on the downriver side of the dam. This is, he calls a sluicing log in Oromocto Lake. These all happened in 1937. What they used to do apparently, and I was talking to Hayes Messer about this, they'd haul the logs out to the edge of Oromocto Lake and put them in the lake and haul them down to the sluice with in a boom. But sometimes the ice would go out and take the logs out and they would spread all over the lake. So then they have to get somebody to go out and pull them in and get them down through the sluice. Here we show.
Are any of those structures still there? Or they're all gone?
No, they're all gone. This is a bunch of logs on Oromocto Lake, ready to go in the sluice. What they used to do is they dam the lake, and then this is there, that was all dammed up, and then they open that up and they let the logs up to it. And of course, that water continued downstream to the area I was living in, Tracy, and there would be hundreds of thousands of logs that flew there and then the drivers. As a matter of fact, in 1940, I was in grade 2, and we heard the drivers in, and the teacher let us know early that day to the drive. Because a lot of the kids in school were working on the drive. This picture here is one that Janet Swan sent me. It's Murray Sawbill by Lewis Swans. And this is the right view of that mill. So it was quite a big operation, actually, looking at the building, I would say. Here we have Alton Lister's lumber camp. Must have been a small operation, I guess. This is Swans Oromocto Lake lumbering camp. This was a sawdust pile at Chester Messer's in Tweedside. And she told me who the fellow was standing on top. It was, he lives up in Christie Regions, up in the home of my dad and now. Probably his last name is Christie.
Was it Philip?
Philip. Yeah, she thinks that was Philip Messer standing on that sawdust pile. No, I'm thinking of Philip Christie. This is the York Mills Mill, and, Robert, George, Fred, and Archie, Clarence Little. There's two things going on here. One was making, I think, candy pails, and the other one was a lumber mill. This is just some interesting, I thought, lumbering data. This was the requirement for 100 men for 3 months, what they would need in that lumber camp. And the one thing took my eye down here was dried prunes, 250 pounds. And it was 8.5 cents per pound.
Oh my goodness.
Look at the cured pork, 2 or 3 barrels, $30 a barrel. Messed pork for boiling, 1 or 2 barrels. Codfish, 10 BCS, I don't know what that is. Lobsters, I guess. Butter was 22 cents a pound. Molasses, 200, 300 gallons of molasses. Onions, 8 bags of onions. And this was the cost of provisions commonly used at lumber camps between 14 and 21. And look at the difference. 1914, barrel pork was $26 a barrel. 1921 was $36, so it gone up $10.
Because of the warriors, is that why those
Yeah,
prices were so high?
18 and
Well, 18, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bean pork, $24 up to 32, and it was high again during the war year. You can actually see the difference there,
Yeah.
the correlation between it and the war. Eggs a dozen was 26 cents in 14, 52 and 21. They've gone up a little bit during the war as well. Coffee was 17 cents a pound. Tea, 19 cents a pound. And this was the average cost of the operator and wages and room and board for maintaining 1 man in a lumber camp. 13, 14, 22, and 23. cost that guy, his wages plus his board was $18 to $26. So he wasn't getting very much for his labor, was it?
That's in a year?
No, yeah, that's,
Is that for a year?
yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, they wouldn't be in there all year. I mean, that was the average cost for them to bring that man in there for the season, okay? When you get down to 22 and 23, you're up to $35 to $45. And this one shows us the number of mills in each province, and here we are in New Brunswick, and this was in 1921. In New Brunswick, there was 249 mills. So there was a mill almost every few miles. Look at Ontario, 852. Only one in Yukon. What I'm going to show you next is some footage of an actual stream drive. A friend of mine, who's now deceased, his father had a lumbering operation up around the Hamilton area. I think he lumbered in the Matapedia Valley and the rest of the Mersereau Valley. And he had these shots were taken between 1925 and 1935. I couldn't tell, but there was some other stuff on the film, and some of the old cars I could tell were in that area. What I did, I actually edited because there was a lot of family information on the reels as well, so I just edited out the stuff regarding stream driving. And you may find this a little boring. There's no sound. Quality isn't great, but this was done back in the 20s. And this has been converted and copied probably 500 times since then.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows the log going down that stream, whatever that stream is. We're eventually going to get to see the stream drivers here.
I wouldn't want to be caught in the middle of that.
No. But you know, these people that did this, they look forward, they're like truck drivers. They look forward to doing this every year. I remember I had two uncles, and they were 39 and 40, and I remember putting the cops in the boots, the courts rather, and they could hardly wait to get up to the drive. And it must have been one of the worst jobs that you can imagine, you know, like the ice had just gone out, it'd be cold, the feet were never dry. That's the old lumber camp. Lots of them. I noticed that these weren't that big a log as far as that goes.
They're short too.
Yeah. Maybe, you know, the geography up there in the road, I don't know, because I don't even know where this is really. But look at the stuff that's coming down there. And of course, once that gets to its destination, a lot of work to process it in. It showed one pile of logs on the other side of the river that wasn't getting in there yet. My two grandfathers told me a lot about lumbering operation when I was a young boy, but you know, when you're young, you don't pay attention, you don't listen, and I don't remember 80% of what they told me anyway. But I wish now, looking back, that I had paid more attention and asked me more questions. But I just thought they were, you know, what we talking about. You know, I got other things to do here. I guess that's human nature. I guess. It's the same thing. Yeah. They didn't only stream drive the main rivers. They stream drove a lot of the side streams. I remember my uncle's talking about stream driving on the big and little yellow hole, Tracy Brook, Lime Stream. Although I imagine that those places were even worse than these big streams because I'm sure the logs were stretched up all the time. This shows one of the solution streets there. And here we are looking at the pile of trying to get logs before they get into the river. Imagine coming down there in one of those scouts we used to use for working with this stuff.
If you pay the way water out now.
Yeah. There was always a jam at the Tracy Bridge, and those guys would be down there, and I could see them yet with the beavers and pike pullers trying to get that stuff out, and you wonder how they ever survived. And sometimes they even put dynamite in to let them go. And they did dangerous work, I'll tell you. And they always had a drive boss, and he'd be a pretty tough nut too. And everybody had to be working all the time. Here we are here, cutting down the tree with an axe. We're going to use about 6 men to push that. He must be leaning, but he's about 6 men to push her over here.
I didn't know what the guy was pulling.
He's the fastest one.
They become very adept with that baby, I'll tell you. They can almost pick your teeth with it. There's wood blossom back there.
Oh, he's watching.
Telling everybody what to do. Every move to make. If you ever want to see a real good movie on lumber operations, go into YouTube and ask for stream drives in Maine, and there's a whole series on there. And the guy explains everything in great detail. It's too long for this presentation. It's very interesting. And the guy has the New England accent and the whole thing. And that's pretty neat, I'll tell you. There they go.
Just hopping from one log to another.
See, that's a pretty small stream there. At one time in New Brunswick, the logs were so long, and it appears that a lot of the local bridges were only made out of stone and logs, that the drive would take the piers out. So what they did, they passed a law, and I don't know what year it was, but they could only have a log a certain length. They couldn't run any longer than that. But they still had a lot of fetch out.
Yeah. It's never gonna write it down.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's the old wood boss again with the felt hat. That's quite around right there. Eh?
So agile.
The trouble was, you see, they only had so much time to get them under there. The water would drop fast once the Yeah, it ought to be pretty cold in this house. And he said the feet never dry.
Yeah, what kind of boots did they wear?
Well, he said boots with the cork thing.
Corks?
Yeah, they'd screw in these sharp little spikes like, would be maybe 20 or 30 and the soldier would move it.
Hmm.
And the kit came and then a little wrench came to get, I remember that. But my uncles would always do that in spring before they went. The other thing, when I was a kid, of course, when the drive came down, I used to like to be down there because the old cook, they had a raft that came with the drive. And the old cook did what he called the longman box. And he had that full of big molasses cookies, so I'd bring them up and feed the kids. I don't know if this guy quit or just coming in for a job.
Yeah.
Oh. It smells. Wow. Awful.
These guys know what hard work goes already. That's one of the scouts they used. The old folks kind of like me with the first movie camera I had. He spent more time canning than he did taking pictures.
Who's got the,
And of course, this is logs, but they didn't say anything for pulpwood in log cases. Here they are putting the logs in. They used to have some gigantic piles of logs in the shore of these streams. There's some there. I don't know if these guys missed the drive or whether just waiting to just open the gates up. A lot of lumber there, huh? But look at the difference the hydraulics have made in lumbering now. You know, the heavy stuff is on the wall. Nobody listening to anyone else. Oh, they're getting a drink in the scab. You don't dare drink the water out of the rivers now. How many? In one day. Yeah. Can't stand that. You can poke it operation here. Yeah, probably. All these rivers out here were all drove at one time, St. Croix and Acadavia. I have a copy of the first survey of the Acadavia River, which also was done, the same surveyor surveyed Harvey Lake areas here. And they said there was all kinds of 150-foot pine along the Acadavia River. It was done in 1897. The American surveyor and the Canadian surveyor, apparently he didn't have the border finalized at that time. This is the sewage here. And of course, downriver, there was sometimes there'd be 3 or 4 companies putting the logs down the stream, and downriver they'd have to sort them out. They'd have sorting yards. There's a big one in Douglas there in Fredericton. You still see the old piers sorting out. going to work. You probably feel them use the wrong company thing.
Would they notch the logs to?
No, they mark them on the end with a big crayon or something.
Ah.
You had to have some sound to it, but I guess it was sound camera in those days.
Fascinating nevertheless.
He said early, before the dam was in Grand Falls, that 50% of the logs that come over Grand Falls when they could be used once they get down to the mouth of the river because they would be left dead. Yeah, I did see a picture of one of the jams on the Grand Falls. I don't know how they would have done it, they stayed there rocky, I suppose. There's a tall kite pole Not fun if you win though.
No.
Especially in that sluice. Never survived down through there, I wouldn't think. Imagine the work just building the dam. When I was younger, we used to hunt and fish up the little Yoho stream there. You could still see the remnants of the old dams there. These are logs going up the river here, of course, on the side of that log. But like I said, these guys work because they were like truck drivers today, they didn't want to do new ones. I can't imagine why. They all look forward to going on the drive. I think 1940 or 41 was the last year of driving down to fishing. Because they got roads in by then and the trucks were starting to take over and the mills becoming more portable.
It seems like such an endless task.
Well, it's certainly done a lot of years together, that's for sure. Yeah, a lot safer. I think that was dynamite, yeah.
Wow.
They always dynamite the one at Tracy Bridge there. And that's some days it wasn't electric caps and they light that and you have to run it. How close he is to that. Say goodbye. Nice to meet you, folks.
Well, that's exactly an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions for Ray?
Like I told you now, I don't have experience in this. I'm just showing you what I read. I did get into the archives and Freddie can get some of these pictures.
I remember the booms in St. John River
Yeah.
when I was a little kid. I'm assuming they were hauling those down to St. John
Yeah.
to the pulp mill. Yeah.
In Fredericton below where the Princess Margaret Bridge is now, there used to be 3 giant mills there, about where the boat club is now. There was the Fraser's had a mill there, the Morrison's had a mill there. I don't remember the name of the third one. I used to go there in the train a lot from Fredericton Junction. And there was three train station stops there. When you left Fredericton, there was Salamanca, Morrison Mills, Victoria Mills, and Dope Settlement, all within 2 miles on that train, on that track. And that train would stop every day, and those people would travel back and forth from the city up there working those mills. One mill had a smokestack there, I'm sure it was 250 feet high, it was gigantic. And that was still standing there within the last 20 years ago. And looking at it now, I don't know how they had the mills between where the road is and where the river is, because there doesn't seem to be any space there much. You know, the shore, there's no shoreline there. The road
And then the railroad track came along
It was up
between
above,
the road.
it was above the road.
Oh, okay, I was thinking it was below the road in some places, but maybe it's further down than I'm thinking. Yeah, you said by the boat club.
Yeah,
Railway cross just above the external.
Right, yeah.
The boat club is up.
Yeah. Close to Fredericton, yeah.
like, there doesn't seem any space there now between the road and the river, but there certainly was in those days, but those 3 mills, I remember those mills being there. And they employed a lot of people, like, there was hundreds of people working there.
Going back to those bees that they are the tree roots. You ever went to Minister's Island? Learned on Minister's Island.
Apparently, it was a very common, even small knees were used in shipbuilding for just little things like, you know, you fasten the deck, whatever they call the thing, the decks on there, over to the side of the boat. I went on here and researched some of that, and that was a very common practice, because that joint is extremely strong, and if the grain of the wood comes down, and then hardly the root, it was something root up into the tree.
I didn't realize that tamaracks were such a strong tree.
Well, the other thing about tamarack, of course, it was easy to get, but it usually goes in a bog, you know, or wet ground up there. You know, grandfather told me that his grandfather cut them, so they could do quite a few in one day.
It doesn't rust very readily either.
No, it lasts a long time. And as far as the hewing goes, like most of these old barns around Harvey here, most of the beams in those barns were hand hewn. There must have been a lot of work going to do that functionality.
Can't imagine.
The hewing axe was made specially, it was only sharp on the side, and it had a short handle because they were walking alongside of the log, and they were working, in most cases, they were working on the other side of the log. So the handle had a ball in it, like that, and then both left-handed and right-handed, of course. So I've got a couple of those things, but they're hard to come by now. Yeah, the other two I didn't mention here was the adze. Some of the lumber camps, they used poles for the floor, and what they did, they laid the poles in, and then they took an adze, which is an actual shape of the hull, and they flattened those poles with the adze. And, well, but it was hard. Anyway, that's the presentation.
Well, thank you so much. That was our 3rd presentation, and please stay tuned for the next one, which will be next month. We don't have a topic yet, but we will. So keep your eyes open. Thanks, everybody.
It's a lot of work to put into that grade.
Oh, I worked away at it, and
Yeah, you did.